Next is Deputy Thomas Pringle, who I understand is sharing with Maureen O'Sullivan.
Thank you. Minister, the Government's reveal of the annual transition strategy has been farcical, to say the least. You have called EU mission targets for the state as inappropriate, blaming the financial crisis for our failure to meet these targets. Minister, the financial crisis should have been an opportunity where we could have gotten creative and targeted investment in local energy supply chains, generating income for local markets and rural jobs for towns and villages across Ireland. Instead, the Government overemphasises on one type of renewable energy, which disproportionately targets and affects rural constituencies across the country, like my own of Donegal. While I welcome the recent allocation of €7 million to develop a renewable heat initiative and biomass industry, it will be money making up for decades of lost opportunities. In my nearly 6 years in here, I have been calling for greater investment in biomass, as it could lead to a greater number of sustainable local rural jobs for counties like Donegal, while also providing a carbon-neutral, locally sustainable energy market. I met with Minister Andrew Doyle recently alongside the Donegal Woodland Owners Society Limited, where we conveyed the existing barriers to creating a local sustainable supply chain for wood chip or log feeding into a biomass market. Donegal's forestry sector can become a major player in the biomass sector through the production of wood for fuel. When timber is exported from Donegal in its raw form as logs, there is little value added to the end product. But when wood is processed in Donegal, the supply chain is shorter to the consumer, which minimises the transport-related emissions. Donegal has huge potential for biomass production, as approximately 12.2% of the land area of the county is under forest. In 2015, Ireland imported 85% of its total energy requirement at a cost of over €5.7 billion, and Donegal accounted for approximately over €100 million of this energy bill. But only 7.8% of Ireland's total energy usage comes from renewable sources, so there is huge scope to increase that figure. We need a fairer distribution of resources for the renewable energy sector as part of our efforts to stop the climate change. Again, Minister, the Government continuously avoids the issue of the use of public funds to invest in fossil fuel companies, and I'd like to thank people for profit for their mention and support for my bill. Divestment is the fastest growing international divestment movement, and it's for a reason. To reach our global targets, we have to keep 85% of known fossil fuel supplies in the ground if we were to remain within the temperature limits. We need to fight climate change on a number of fronts, and one such front would be through ethical financing. The bill seeks to have the ISIF, which manages our public monies for investment, to divest its assets from fossil fuel companies over a 5-year period. Divestment isn't just climate smart, it makes financial sense. The ISIF currently invests €133 million in fossil fuel companies, but because fossil fuel commodities are increasingly volatile, the ISIF lost €22 million in 2015 and €100 million in total over the past 3 years on those investments. Imagine what this money could do if it was invested in the renewable energy solutions, like, for example, biomass or solar PV energy. It's been announced recently that renewable energy specialist Gaelectric is selling 14 Irish wind farms worth an estimated €400 million to the China General Nuclear Power's European energy arm. Gaelectric Chief Executive Barry Gavin said the company intended using the proceeds to pay off debts and support for other renewable energy projects. But yet, we, the citizens of Ireland, are going to be subsidising those wind farms for the benefit of China General Nuclear Power's energy arm, and that just doesn't make any sense. I agree that there can be positive ownership initiatives in place which mean communities benefit and prosper from renewable energy sources, but I don't think that wind energy will necessarily provide this. In fact, we need to radically diversify our renewable energy sector. It has been far too dominated by the production of wind energy, which is heavily subsidised by the state, affecting rural communities disproportionately. I think it is a myth that wind energy is a cheap, affordable energy source. We need to be realistic about this. In 2013, in the Republic, wind farms received a total of €277 million from citizens. And if the plans to install another 2,200 megawatts of wind go ahead, wind energy will actually cost citizens €660 million per year. Constraints payments also paid to wind farms for excess electricity production amounted to €108 million in 2013, an average of €67,000 per megawatt of installed wind. But given the limit on wind power that can be taken by the grid, the more wind farms that are built, the more wind power is constrained. and this means that the percentage could rise to 49% in the future. If plans to install another 2,200 megawatts of wind go ahead, constraint payments are estimated to reach €320 million per year. And yet the government are insisting on investing over €4 billion in the air grid to upgrade the infrastructure just to facilitate that wind. It doesn't make any sense at all. This subsidy is paid mainly to wind farm generators like the China nuclear industry, who have a contract with a supplier for electricity, or Electric Ireland. And if the contract is not lucrative enough, the wind farm receives a top-up from the Public Service Obligation Levy.